Hey everybody, this is Grant Kemp, and we just wanted to come together as the Texas 100 and give you guys just an extremely loud round of applause, as well as an update to everything that's going on within the Texas 100 and what you guys have been able to sponsor with your support, both financially and verbally and just enthusiastically, and what's gone on specifically at the state level for Texas. But we're also going to do another follow-up video that will be coming shortly right after this, to update you with what's going on in the nation, because we are both working in the national and on the state side to make sure that seller financing, when done the right way, is protected, and that we can continue to go out there and run our businesses as ethical business people and make sure that things are being taken care of. So let's get into it. What happened, right? What is going on right now? Well, what we've seen is that we've seen some bills come down the pipeline that would be seriously threatening to the way that business needs to be done. Now, these bills were prompted from some folks that went out and did things the wrong way, and our position, as yours should be as well, is that we want those guys out of the market just as much as anybody else does. But the bills as they were written were threatening to the way of business that we do that is the right way. And so the phenomenal update, the just amazing, incredible updates that we have here are that we got a seat at the table. We're talking to all the right people, right? We've had some meetings with some incredibly high-powered folks. I sat in a meeting along with Mike Powell and our lobbyist, as well as the lobby efforts from Phil and Shanoa Grove at the Big Dog program. But we were able to talk to a couple of House members, a couple of senators, Caroline Jones, who is the commissioner of the Texas SML, basically the person in charge of all of the lending laws in Texas, as well as the general counsel for the Texas Mortgage Bankers Association and the general counsel for the Texas Bankers Association, as well as the head honcho for licensing in Texas. And I was able to sit there and tell them the things that you have told us and that we know from having actually read the laws that would be detrimental to a good business model that is still helping everyday people, working class people, become homeowners that would have been damaged with the way that the bill was currently phrased. And guys, I want to tell you, it was such a powerful moment as I'm telling the folks on the other side of the table what our position is as the Texas 100 and as the investors of this industry that are doing things the right way. And we took out pens and highlighters and copies of the bill, and they listened, guys. They listened, and this would not have been able to happen without the support that we've gotten from you guys, to the point where literally everything that we needed was redlined out or appended or highlighted or whatever that might be, to where we were able to get to an agreement that made sense for us as well as made sense for them. Again, we want to stress that we are trying to work with the legislators. We want to make sure that the wrong kinds of people are chased out of this industry while not getting in the way of doing business the right way. And so we've made phenomenal relationships with the commissioner of the SML. We've made phenomenal relationships with several of the senators and several of the House reps. Senator Zaffirini is the sponsor of this particular bill. And in this session, it did not get through the House. Now, that's a good and a bad news kind of thing, right? We were able to sit down, we were able to get the language changed to be what we needed to see on our side of the table to make sense for you guys, as well as to make sense for the legislators. It passed the Senate, it did not get through the House. However, one thing that we have learned from working with everybody in Austin is that Senator Zaffirini is one of the most well-respected and bulldogged senators you're going to run into, and she will continue to reintroduce these bills until something gets passed that is acceptable. So the good news of it, if there's a good and a bad news here, the good news is right now it's business as usual, okay? Because this new bill did not pass through the House, we don't have to change anything about how business has been done up to this point. Now, we still want to be giving out all of the proper disclosures, all of the proper paperwork, all that kind of stuff. But as long as you're working with a good, reputable attorney and you're using the right paperwork, the way that business has worked up to this point, it will continue to work. That said, because we know the nature of Zaffirini, because we know the nature of how she produces inside of legislative councils and all of that, we know that this is going to be reintroduced in the next session. So the bad news is of it that Guys, your board members for Texas 100, myself, Mitch Stephen, Eddie Speed, Mike Powell, David Fenolio, Paul O'Dwyer, and Bob Repass from the Seller Finance Coalition. Guys, we spent a lot of time flying, driving, bussing down to Austin and making sure that this stuff was done the right way. So the bad news is that even though we got there, we got yeses from all the right people, it's just a start. And we're going to have to do that again in a couple of years when this session comes back, because we understand that Senator Zaffirini, rightfully so, wants to make sure that this change goes into place, because she is doing everything in her power to make sure that the consumer is protected in the best way that she can imagine having that happen. So we're going to have to continue to fight, right? We're going to have to continue to get back down there in the next session and in the interim to make sure that our lobbyists are talking to the right people so that we continue to have the seats in front of the right folks to make sure that if something gets passed, it gets passed in such a way that does make sense for all of the parties involved. Again, we want to be very, very clear to you guys that we are working with legislative counsel, with the legislators. This is not a, oh, they're trying to take this away from us. This is a, hey, they've recognized that there's a legitimate problem in this industry, and they're doing the best thing that they can do to make sure that that problem does not exist in the future. So it's our job to make sure that our voice is heard and that we do not lose a strategy that is very valuable not only to us, but to the people that are working class citizens that are unable to get a loan from a bank who we are helping become homeowners. You sitting watching this video have the ability of changing somebody's life and giving them the opportunity of home ownership that they may not have otherwise had. And so we have to continue to fight. So if you are not already a member of the Texas 100, I implore you, please, 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 go to texas100.org and donate. What we want is we want 100 people in Texas that view their business or their side investment or whatever you want to consider yourself's involvement or your involvement in this, who value that at $1,000 a year for the next 3 years, okay? That's what we need. Lobbyists are not cheap. And I want to be very clear to you guys that nobody within the organization of Texas 100 is getting a check from this. Those names that I named earlier, Mitch Stephen, Eddie Speed, Mike Powell, Paul O'Dwyer, David Fenolio, myself, Grant Kemp, none of us get a check from this. We are volunteering our time and efforts to get down there and make sure that this happens, but we've got to have lobbyists helping this out, and lobbyists cost money. All right. So when you donate to the Texas 100, it is going directly to the fight for our rights to get our communication heard in front of the decision makers so that they're not making decisions that they think are helping when in reality they may be hurting. And guys, that's one of the things that I want to be very clear about, is that to a T, everyone that we've spoken to in Austin and in Washington, I believe them. They want to help. But guys, we understand that this is a complicated matter. Mortgages are complicated. Seller financing is complicated. When they're not in this industry, they may think things are happening that aren't happening. And by golly, I'll tell you, when we were down there, I heard that from several of the senators and from their staff, where they were being told one thing by some parties, and then because of the representation that you guys were able to get through Texas 100, literally heard this from staffers, that these senators and House reps were walking out of the room saying, what the heck are we doing here? We were told it was X, and apparently it's Y, right? That's huge. That's huge. So if you're not a member, please contribute, because we need that contribution to keep going. The board members of Texas 100 have reached into our pocket and reached into our time a lot to make sure that this is happening. There's been a lot of folks out there that have contributed, and again, that's what I say is the biggest round of applause humanly possible goes to you, because it is because of you that these things are going to get changed and that we're going to be protected in the government. And lastly, we just need to make sure that we're banding together to ensure that as the future comes and as more laws want to get passed that are threatening business of ethical, good business owners, that you have a representation and you have a voice in government. And this is the way to do it. Guys, we're a republic. We are represented, right? And to be represented, we have to have our voices heard. This is the way to do it. So as a summary, we got a seat at the table. We had some incredible meetings with some incredibly powerful folks, and they heard us. And it was an incredible moment of realization for both their side and our side to make sure that we're doing the best thing for the consumer and the industry as a whole. things got changed that did pass through the Senate, did not pass through the House. We understand fully that this will be brought back up in the next Texas session, so we need to be prepared now. So if you are a member, thank you. And keep in mind that your renewal may be coming up. And so we need those renewals once a year, $1,000 a year. It's not that much money, but us together, banded together as an industry, can make a difference. And if you have not yet joined, please go to texas100.org so that you can join. And again, we want 100 people for $1,000 a year for the next 3 years, and that is going to be the difference between getting strategies taken away from us and being able to work with legislators to make sure that things are being done the right way, both in our industry and by the government and for the consumer. So thank you so much for watching this. Make sure we're going to do a couple of updates for you guys here. We're gonna up our communications, making sure that you know what's going on and where your dollars are going and what you are getting done in government. So thank you so much for joining us here, and I will see you next time.